You're listening to the weekly Parsha Podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Israel, 5780-2020. This week's Parsha in Chutz La'aretz is Parsha Shlach, and in Eretz Yisrael we're reading Parsha Korach. And I'd like to once again share with you a thought that's the end of Parsha Shlach, beginning of Parsha Korach, the concept of the Tzitzis. What is the idea and the depth behind the Mitzvah of Tzitzis? What do we learn from it? And not just tzitzis, as we'll see in the Medrash, but really many of the mitzvos that we have, which are connected to our begadim, our clothes. We have the tzitzis on our houses. We place a mezuzah. There are many different mitzvos that are connected to our possessions. And we're going to see there's a great depth in the idea behind those mitzvos. And in the beginning of Parshas Korach, so we have Vayikach Korach. Korach begins his rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. And we're going to see the Medrash inside that he comes and he talks about the tzitzis. He comes and he speaks about, that's the connection between the previous Parsha Shlach, the end we have tzitzis, the beginning of Parsha Korach is the rebellion. What is the idea? Let's see this inside in the Medrash. And hopefully Be'ezrat Hashem will have a beautiful and deep idea, a beautiful, deep, wise teaching from our sages. Vayikach Korach. Pasuk tells us that Korach came and he took. What did we speak about at the end of Parshat Shlach? The idea of wearing tzitzis, special strings we place on the four corners of our garments. One of the things, as we'll see, the reason or part of the lesson of the tzitzis, right? The tzitzis on the four corners, we have the strings that are sticking out of the tzitzis, sticking out of the garment, and from the Torah, until the times of the Gemara, we had tcheles, we had a special dye. According to some it was black dye, according to some it was a blue dye, that came from a certain kind of fish called a chilazon, and that dye reminded us of the base of the heavens, reminded us of the Kisei HaKavod, of God's heavenly throne, reminds us of spirituality. And so here's the thing, said Korach like this. Let's say the tcheles, which is the main part of the tzitzis, which reminds us of our connection to spirituality, reminds us of our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's say the garment, the four-corner garment itself is made out of tcheles completely. It's a famous kasha, famous thing that Korach said to Moshe. If I have a garment which is all completely made out of tcheles, why do I need that extra string hanging out of the garment to remind me of spirituality? It's not necessary. Moshe Rabbeinu said, no, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's still going to be obligated in tzitzis. How could it be that a garment which is completely made out of many strings of tcheles, many strings of blue wool, it can't pater itself with all the strings? But now you have four extra strings. That's what's going to make it. That's what the mitzvah is. It doesn't make sense, said Korach. Hard to understand. And he said a further time. He said, let's say you have a house that's full of svarim, right? So you have a Sefer Torah in the house. Why would it be necessary to place a mezuzah on the door? Mezuzah is one little parsha, one little section of the Torah to remind us of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, remind us of our connection to God. What if my house is full of svarim? I have books and I have a Sefer Torah. So am I mechuyev to have a mezuzah on my door? What do I need that little thing for? He said, no, you are obligated. The entire Torah is 274, and according to most of the Gear Seiser, it's actually 275 parshias. 275 sections. The Torah itself doesn't, fulfill your obligations, so to speak. That one small section in the Mezuzah is what's going to now say that a person is Yotzei the mitzvah. Korach said to him, I can't believe that this is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from God. You made it up. You made it up. It doesn't make sense. Can't be that God commanded you these things. Okay, and I'm skipping a small section here. Miyad siva v'asim 250 talitos tcheles v'nisata behen 250 Rosh Sanhedrin shekam al Moshe. So immediately Korach went and he created these 250 garments out of tcheles. The 250 people who were there with him, these great leaders of the Jewish people, they all wore these garments. These 250 important people who came with Korach to fight against Moshe, they all did so. Very interesting. Korach made a big party that night, and they all wore these garments, and they all didn't have tzitzis on them. Doesn't say that explicitly, but that's clearly the idea. And the Meforshim explain that a person sins. When does a person sin? Because of party. He makes a party, brings a person to sin. Okay. Bo b'nei Aaron li talman hasem. Very interestingly, Chazav Shaykh, the Kohanim came, and the Meforshim say it's not necessarily literal that they came literally, or there was an obligation upon those people eating from. They had a big party, and there was a lot of meat. There's a lot of food, and there's an obligation to give certain matnos kahuna, to give certain parts of the animal to the priests. Okay, once again, they refused to give these special portions that were meant to be given to the Kohanim, to the priests, and they said Moshe Rabbeinu made it up himself. Okay, so that's the story with Korach. Korach came and said, this whole thing doesn't make sense. I'm not interested in these mitzvos, and therefore they went off and they did their thing, and they lost their lives for rebelling against Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, what is the idea here? I want to understand the concept of tzitzis. What is the depth of the mitzvah? Because if we understand the mitzvah of tzitzis, we understand what it represents, we can understand what was Korach coming and complaining to Moshe Rabbeinu about. What was his fight? What was his statement? What was he avoiding? What is the concept of the mitzvah of tzitzis that indeed Korach was saying, I'm not interested in? Because it's important to understand it, obviously, because we need to know what this mitzvah is. We do these mitzvahs, and we have these obligations, and what is the message here? So I want to bring you back to a medrash at the end of Parsha Shlach, which speaks about the tzitzis. Pasuk says, chapter 15, verse 38, Vasu lahem tzitzis, you shall make for yourself tzitzis. Hada u'dichsiv or zeru latzadik. This is what the verse means when it says that there is a light which is planted for the righteous. Hashem chofetz l'man tzidka, another verse in Isaiah, which says Hashem desires their righteousness. What is the idea? Hashem planted, Hashem gave us all of these mitzvahs. Why? There's 613 commandments. There's so many details. There's so many parts of the Torah. There's so many places where we have to be involved in mitzvahs. What is the idea behind it? What is the lesson? What are we supposed to take out of it? Why did Hashem do this? It's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to plant for us, to give us seeds. We spoke about seeds previously, the things that we plant for later generations. But not only do we plant for later generations, not only do we plant for others around us, we also plant for ourselves. For what is our life going to look like in that eternal life, the Olam Haba, the world to come. There's not a single thing, says the Medrash, in the entire world that Hashem didn't give us an opportunity to bring a level of spirituality into that mitzvah. Let's see. Yotzalach, right? A person goes out, he's a farmer, he goes out to do the charisha. It's an obligation not to use an ox and a mule together. Lizraya, a person goes out to plant seeds. There's an obligation there as well. Don't plant this kind of seed with that kind of seeds. Can't have kalayim. At every point, at every stage of our lives, whatever we're involved in, there's a mitzvah there. Lush, when a person is making challah and he's making dough, there's an obligation to take off a certain amount of the dough and give it as a donation to the Kohanim, the Levites. As mentioned previously, when a person does shechita, there's an obligation to give these pieces to the Kohen, certain parts. When a person takes an egg, there's an obligation to send away the mother bird. For every step, every stage, there's an obligation, a mitzvah. Hashem gives us an opportunity to infuse the mitzvah with spirituality. Okay, etc. It keeps going on and on and on. Person has a house. There's an obligation to put a mezuzah on her house. Niskasa betalis. The person has clothing. Put on tzitzis, on the four corners of the garment. Okay, so the idea here is, again, to infuse every single aspect of our lives. Every single aspect of our lives as an opportunity for there to be a spiritual dimension to it. Doesn't mention it here. The way that we raise our children. Shinantam levneichem. We have an obligation to teach the Torah to our children. The way that we interact with our wives. We have certain obligations. Okay. Now, what is the concept specifically, though, of tzitzis? We're going to see there's an amazing depth here. Pasuk says that we need to put tchelis on, the special blue dyed wool, which we mentioned before. Shatchelis demel rakia, v'rakia demel likisei hakavod. Right? We said that there's an idea of seeing the tzitzis. When we see our tzitzis, we see the blue, and the tzitzis itself also it's true of. We'll see how that works also, hopefully soon. We see that blue, it reminds us of something. It's a reminder. The tzitzis are a reminder. The mezuzah is a reminder. Each of the mitzvos that we do in regards to every aspect of our lives is a reminder. The blue wool reminds us of the heavens, reminds us of the kisei hakavod. Pasuk says in Exodus chapter 24, verse 10, it refers to the fact that there was a sapphire there was a blue color in the heavens. So it's to remind us of that blue, to remind us of the kisei hakavod, of who we're serving. The tzitzis need to be seen. The word tzitz means lahatzitz, means to see, to scope out, to see, to take a quick peek. The tzitzis are here for us to take a quick peek, to remind us, who are we? Who are we? What is our essence? Our essence is connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Our essence is spirituality. Our essence is godliness. And now here at the end of the piece in the Medrash, because this is just awesome. Hamara mevi lidei zikaron. When a person sees something, it reminds him. You look at a picture of your child. Wow, you feel love. You miss that child. They're in school. Of course, when they're home, they're screaming, you wish you could be somewhere else. But when the child is in school, you look at the picture, it reminds you of the child and your love for the child. When I see the tzitzis, when I see the blue, it reminds me. And when I remember, it reminds me to take action. The pasuk says, in regards to tzitzis, you look at them, you remember, and you act. Lama, because this is not an empty matter, and this is the foundation of what I would like to share with you guys today. Amazing thing, such an important thing. The tzitzis are there to remind us. The tzitzis are there for us to be reminded and take action. It's easy to forget this. Here, listen to this. Mashal balabais. It's a parable. It's comparable to a person, a homeowner, a balabas. He was paying off the taxes. He was paying his taxes, and he was getting receipts for his payments. His father says to him, Bini, be careful with those receipts. Don't lose the receipts. Because if you're not careful about the receipts and you lose the receipts, they might charge you again. You paid the tax, keep the receipts so you can prove that you paid the taxes already. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the Jewish people, this is the same exact thing. It's not an empty thing. Hold on to the mitzvah. What's the idea? The Marzu explains here an amazing thing. We have a mitzvah. What is the idea that in each and everything, in every aspect of our lives, we have a mitzvah? What is the concept? The concept is here. You have a beautiful garment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you. Put tzitzis on the outside, on the edge of it. Two reasons. Number one is for you to remember. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give you a mitzvah so that you can have zechuyos, you can have awesome merits for the Olam Haba. But there's another thing here, and that's for us to recognize that what is this? What is the thing that we have? Where is it from? Why do I have this? Where do these nice clothes come from? Where did this beautiful house come from? How is it that I have delicious bread to eat with my eggs in the morning? Where does it come from? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, here's a mitzvah. Here's a mitzvah, take off challah. Give it to the lady who represents me. Give it to the Levite. Give it to the Kohen. It represents me. You need to be reminded. You can't walk through your life with all the blessings that you have and not stop. Stop for a moment. You walk in the door, kiss that mezuzah. Don't do it without thinking. Don't do it in a happenstance way. You put your tzitzis on in the morning. You make the bracha. You kiss the tzitzis when you say Shema. Don't forget what's going on there. This is your chance to remember. Wow, I can appreciate that I have a wonderful garment. That's how we pay our tax, and that's how we keep the tax receipts. The receipt that says we paid the tax. The tax is the mitzvah. This is what we do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu because He gave us something. He gave us our lives. He gave us our clothing. He gave us our homes. He gives us so much. He gives us our parnasa. We take off mice. We take off tzedakah. Why? Because that's how we show our appreciation. We recognize that it's from Him. And we have it in front of us. Keep those receipts in front of you. And I want to tell you a beautiful thing. My great-grandfather, Zechron Levracha, Reb Yitzchak Yosef, Streisand was his name. He left my family a beautiful set of chumashim, which he used to learn from. A set of chumashim called the Chaykel Yisrael. It had in it translations into Yiddish, Gemaras, Psukim. And inside of that chumash set, he left these receipts, the receipts for the tzedakah that he gave. Beautiful. My father was just going through them. There's a receipt there for the Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin he had given to. There's a receipt there for he had moved to Eretz Yisrael in the 1930s, I believe, and he had given money to different tzedakahs here in Eretz Yisrael, and he left those receipts inside of his chumash, and we enjoy those receipts. I have to share with you that this is what I use for my bookmarkers and my sforim. I use those receipts that I get from the tzedakah that I've given. And the receipts remind us that we know, obviously we can never pay our dues, so to speak, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but this is who we are. We're connected. We recognize, we remind ourselves that this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we're connected to. This isn't just something that we do all the time without thinking. It can't be that. It can't be that. That's what the Medrash is telling us. An amazing thing. The tzitzis is she'nires. It's seen. It reminds us. Remember, what is this about? The actions that we do have to be different because we recognize that it's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all from Hashem. And I think a large part, perhaps, we don't know how HaKadosh Baruch Hu does things, but a large part of the shakeup that's gone on over the last few months in our lives, financially, and it's going to continue. It seems to be continuing financially, physically, walking around in masks, walking around thinking differently. Parnasa is a question mark for so many people. It's a shakeup. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to think, where is it from? Don't forget you still have a roof over your head. You still have clothing. You're okay. You're okay. But where is it from? It's a reminder. Now let's go back to Korach, because Korach didn't want to have tzitzis. He didn't want a mezuzah. He said, what do you mean? What do I need a reminder for? My house is full of svarim. I'm a fruma yid. I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything you're supposed to do. I have tchelet. My whole garment is tchelet. My whole life is connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You want to tell me that I still need something extra, another reminder? That's not necessary. You made this up. Moshe. You want me to give something extra to the Kohanim? You want me to take from my party and give to the Kohanim something? Come on. It's not necessary. And that's a mistake. It's a mistake. What's the mistake? Because that's human nature. Human nature is that we get used to it. We don't think about it. We put on the tzitzis every morning. We don't think about it. We pass by the Mezuzah. We kiss the Mezuzah. We don't think about it. We have all these mitzvos that we're doing all the time. And it's so easy to forget. We need to have these receipts in our sfarim. We need to see it for ourselves. We need our great-grandchildren to see that this is who we are and this is who we were. We need this to continue for all times. And it doesn't continue. It can continue by rote, but it doesn't have the same power. That's what the Medrash is teaching us. It doesn't have the same power. When a person is doing things by rote, when it's just, we're all good, we're all okay, we're all doing things already. That's Korach's mistake. That's death. That's the result. The result is Korach and his Adasai make these mistakes. How could they come against Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu took them out of Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Navi Hashem, the Bechir Hashem, they all heard HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to him. How could they make such a mistake? And I think that when a person becomes accustomed, when everything is just rote, it's just, this is what we do. This is what we do. And I'm not reminding myself. If I'm not reminding myself, I'm falling into a trap. And I can fall into the trap of gaiva and every bad midah can happen if I'm not thinking, if I'm not reminding myself. One of the things that I'm ecstatic about, I do almost every single day. I listen to a shir from a Rosh Hashiva, whether it's a brand new shir from the Vad. Musar. I need musar. I need to remind myself, what do I want? Where do I want to go? Am I off track? Am I on the right track? Am I doing things correctly? What's going on with me? Am I just floating along? Is everything just okay with me? Is my life, it's a house full of svarim? I need that reminder at the petach of my house, even if my house is full of svarim. I can't take it for granted. I have a mezuzah on my door. Not even think about it. And I think that that's so much. It's like what's being told to us today. Don't take for granted your health. Don't take for granted your parnasa. Don't take for granted being able to daven in a shul. Don't take it for granted. That's what the message, I believe, of this medrash is. That's the message of the tzitzis. It's something lahatzitz, to notice, to see, to notice, to remind ourselves, my tzitzis, don't just kiss it. Remind ourselves, look at it. You're kissing it anyway. Look at it, notice it. And it's got to make your actions different. Uzakartem, vasisem. The actions change. The depth, the realness of what's going on in our lives changes when it's not just by rote. I want to bless you and ask you to bless me. That Hashem should help us to take the opportunities that are right in front of us every single day. So many opportunities that we're doing them anyway. Hashem should help us to infuse them with awareness. To infuse them to take the opportunities that are there right in front of us, that we have, that we are doing, and to infuse them indeed with awareness and connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it should spill over into all of our actions, and we should only go mala umala. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.